Welcome, everyone. This is my talk on open data for open finance. And I'm going to try to break down what is special about Web3 data and how you can work with it on Dune. And maybe a bit of background around myself. I'm a business administration dropout, so I wasn't too technical before working on Dune. And I think it's a really approachable career to break into Web3 using data science or data analyst, since the space is like very nascent. So yeah, if anybody is looking for a job, Web3 analyst is definitely something that is very badly needed, and you can become one in no time, I think. So yeah, what I want you to take away from today is that Web3 data is radically open. It's fairly straightforward, since we're just analyzing the outputs of a computer. And Web3 data really levels the playing field. And we're going to go into each of these in a bit more detail now. So who here has traded on a DEX in the last 30 days? Decentralized exchange, DEX, yeah. So yeah, congratulations, you made it into this picture. So yeah, this is pretty cool. This is all the decentralized exchange volume over the last 30 days of all the different decentralized exchanges. And this is pretty cool already, but we can go a level deeper. So if you look at this chart now, the big pink bars, that's Uniswap. So you can see that Uniswap is really dominating this field. And there's already like one special property, is that we can just analyze all the different projects and all the different products of those projects against each other in a very open manner. That's not possible in Web 2. Try to like see the like sale volume of PlayStations on like Amazon versus eBay with Best Buy or something. It's just not possible. But in Web 3, since we're all using the shared backend and it's public, we can just analyze these projects against each other. And then we can even go a level deeper. So this is all the decentralized exchange pools for the USDC wrapped Ether trading pair. What we see here is that the Uniswap v3 0.05% fee tier pool, that one is dominating by far. So that's like this purple color, which are the big bars. And then surprisingly, Uniswap v3 with a 0.30% fee tier is the second place. So that shows you how good Uniswap's concentrated liquidity mechanism, algorithm, however they call it, is working in a decentralized exchange market, that they can even if they switch to a higher fee tier, it's still better execution and better experience for the end user. This pool is still better than let's say SushiSwap or Balancer or Dodo or whatever. So yeah, that's fairly interesting. So we can go like all the way back to like project level, then we can break it down into projects, and then we can even go into like the different products of those projects. So it's pretty open. And then if we want to go like even one level deeper, we can actually just look at the individual trades of those pools and see like, are whales trading in here? The others bar here is this blue color. And yeah, it's fairly interesting that most of the volume that gets made up, so the others bar, that's like way more people, but there's just like a few individual players in the market who make up all the volume, also known as whales, I guess. So yeah, Web3 data is radically open. Everything is super public, there's no hiding. I have no affiliation with Uniswap or Curve or Balancer or whatever. Dune, of course, like we talk to them, but they can't stop us from analyzing their data. So there's no hiding. If your product is failing, you're failing in public. But there's also this thing where if somebody has tried something before, I can actually like analyze what they did. So if I want to start like a very similar project to what Yearn is doing or to what Uniswap is doing, I can just like go into their actual product metrics, which you would in Web 2, it's like unthinkable that I would like have access to all these metrics in like such a granular form. And I can just go in there and actually learn from them or see if I'm SushiSwap, I'm like, which trading pairs am I actually winning? Is there even any? Like, what can I do to make my product better? And then also, so if we break it down to this user level, we can actually analyze our users very easily without having to utilize like Google Analytics or, I don't know, like third-party trackers, but rather we can just take the wallet and see what the wallet otherwise has done. So we can see like, is this like a, I don't know, is he just using Uniswap out of convenience? Is it because we have the best trade execution? Is it because he's using 1 inch in the back end, so like an aggregator, and 1 inch just routes over Uniswap? So you can make all those kinds of analysis. And then one last thing, which I'm gonna explain afterwards as well, is like, if you don't deal with your on-chain data, someone else will. And what I mean by that is like, if there's like a lot of hype around your project and you basically can't back it up with data, then the Dune community will come in and be like, guys, what the fuck? Like, you're actually like, you're not doing so great, look at your data. So a good example of this is the LooksRare project. So for anyone who's not familiar with LooksRare, it's a new NFT marketplace. It's a competitor to OpenSea. They're trying to be like very general, open NFT marketplace. And the way LooksRare launched is basically they incentivize trading volume by subsidizing the volume traded. So for each given day, there was a certain amount of LooksRare tokens that they were giving out. And then it was like, however much percentage of volume in ETH on that day of the platform you made up, you just got the amount of LooksRare tokens corresponding to that. So yeah, people just used this subsidy to generate free money. So that didn't work out too well. I still don't know if it was a bug or a feature, if the LooksRare team was like aware that this was gonna happen, or because it makes for some pretty good charts. So yeah, this is the formula that they used. So if you look at this, this is the NFT market volume per day by the most, like, these are the most important projects in the market pretty much. And if you look at this, you'd think like, hey, LooksRare is doing great. Like, they launched like 3 months ago and they're already at like, let's say 15–20% market cap, and on some days they're even doing like 200 million of volume or something. Like, that would be a very successful product launch if you don't, like, if LooksRare was a centralized company and they just like publish a quarterly report saying like, hey, like, look at all our volume, like, we're doing fucking great. But then if you actually like go deeper into the data, so in NFTs there's this concept which is called royalties, and royalties basically means that whenever, so if I launch an NFT and I want to keep profiting from the upside, I can basically say my royalty fee for my NFT will be 5%, and then on every sale transaction, 5% of the sale price will go to me. But there's also collections which have 0 royalty volume. And of course, if you want to wash trade on LooksRare, a 0 royalty collection actually is, like, that's the only way you're pretty much going to do it. Otherwise, on every Ether you put in, you're going to lose like 0.05 Ether just for the royalty fee. And so people used 0 royalty collections on LooksRare to wash trade. So the blue bar is the total sales volume, and the orange bar is the 0 royalty volume. So if we look at this and then we think for a second, it's like, obviously, like, so all, like, 0 royalty is probably most likely in 99% of the cases, it's just wash trading. And then if we look at the remaining volume, which is the gray bar, yeah, there's nothing much left. Yeah, that's really the whole story of LooksRare. And then if we look at the daily users, so OpenSea averages like 50K over the last month, I guess, and LooksRare is sitting at like 1K, if even. And then if we actually, so if we chart the total volume of OpenSea and the LooksRare volume, which is cleaned for the wash trading data, then we get to this. And this is quite a stark difference to what we were looking at earlier. So this is really the power of Web3 and the Web3 data stack, basically, because like, you can't hide your data. If LooksRare was a centralized company, they could have just said, yeah, we're doing like a shit ton of volume and it's all going great. And meanwhile, it is actually just wash trading volume, and their user numbers are like, yeah, they're pretty minimal compared to OpenSea. And then maybe because this story is not really finished yet, lots of people are speculating that aggregators will help LooksRare succeed. So this is just the share of aggregator transactions that happen in the NFT market at the moment. And yeah, you can see that GEM is now sitting at like 7 to 11% or 7 to 15% market share of all NFT transactions. And I think the more this will rise, the better it will be for LooksRare, because in the end, they actually like offer a pretty good platform, which has lower trading fees than OpenSea. So any rational actor would prefer to trade on OpenSea, especially for like, if you do like, if you buy like a Bored Ape for 100 ETH, then 0.5%, which is the difference between the OpenSea fee and the LooksRare fee, is actually pretty relevant. But yeah, we'll see how this turns out. But yeah, this is also like, we can actually analyze like which transactions are coming from aggregators and which are done directly, which is also like really cool. So yeah, this is basically the first part. Web3 data is radically open. I hope I explained this somewhat sufficiently. And then my next point is Web3 data is fairly straightforward. And basically, we're gonna try to understand how does this work. So Web3 data concepts, like very, very simple. And if there's developers, they're probably like, don't listen too closely. I might butcher something. But very simple concept is that Ethereum is a state machine. So basically, these different smart contracts, they just have different states. So for example, if I own 20,000 DAI, then somewhere in the ERC20 contract, which is the DAI contract, or in the smart contract, which is the ERC20 DAI contract, there's just an entry in a database, and obviously it's not a database in plain format, but rather it's a Patricia Merkle tree, I think. But anyways, there's just an entry there, which is like my wallet address and then the balance of the tokens that I own. And so that's basically the state. And then if I want to change that state, I need to send a transaction. So I will basically call the DAI contract, tell the DAI contract I want to move my DAI to another address. And doing that, the DAI contract will then output a lock. So basically, I have a state, I send a transaction, and that transaction will oftentimes emit something that is called an event lock. And those event locks are very useful for analyzing what's happening on the chain. And basically, all of this is fairly straightforward. And like, of course, like you need to kind of understand what's happening inside of this like system of smart contracts. And like in the DAI case, it's pretty easy because it's just like one DAI contract. But if we like analyze like, I don't know, aggregator transactions where 1inch starts like routing over Uniswap and Curve and like whatever, it gets more complicated. But basically, the individual elements of a transaction are fairly straightforward since it's just output of a computer. So there's no like user input errors. The data comes out very clean out of the EVM. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, yeah, I actually, I almost explained this right now already, but basically, on the left side, we have the world state in the old format, and then on the right side, so we input a transaction, and then we just arrive at a new world state. So that's basically this concept of state. And then if I send out a transaction, I give the I basically call a smart contract. That smart contract will execute whatever I say it, and what might happen internally is that smart contract starts calling other smart contracts. So this is basically, this can be, like this is a finite loop. Like it's not really like, you send something into the VM or like into a smart contract, and that smart contract can start calling other smart contracts until the transaction is finally finished. And while that happens, we output locks. So now, basically, what that leads us with is like we can analyze state, but states, we don't have state on Dune at the moment, because as you can imagine, if we would like the blockchain already is like pretty big, but if we unroll all states over all time, since we on Dune like we wouldn't only have like it would be fairly useless on Dune because we are like mostly historical data to have only the state that is current, but rather we would have to have like all states of all blocks. So unrolling all of that, it's like a lot of work. We're working on it. And there's actually teams out there who have already done this, and yeah, kudos to them. We'll get there eventually as well. But in the meantime, basically, we can work with transactions. So who's trying to do what? Traces or internal transactions, they're called an ETHscan. There's like a bit of debate how to properly call them. So what happened while executing the transaction? So that's basically like if one smart contract starts calling other smart contracts, that leaves traces on the chain. And then we have event logs, and event logs are what just happened. So an event log, you can basically, when you write a smart contract, there's a function called emit, and I don't know how to call it, but basically if you write emit, it will spit out an event log, and those are really, really useful to actually analyze what's happening on the chain, and those are like the most used data type that we do on Dune, because they're just like very reliable, and they're actually made for like seeing what's happening on chain, right? Like you developers, like you will analyze like what's happening inside your smart contract to see like that everything's working properly, and just as well like us data analysts can then check like not is this working properly, but what is it actually doing? So yeah. So then we come to Web3 data querying on Dune, because you guys actually haven't seen Dune yet. So all methods to get the data are public. Then once it runs forever. So if you like build a dashboard on Dune, it will just like stay there indefinitely. Then standardization and abstraction happen on a macro level. That's basically, so Web3 data, even though it is fairly straightforward, if you want to do a table like, oh man, this is going to be Dex.traits or NFT.traits for that matter, basically you would need to deal with all of the different smart contracts of all the different exchanges, right? So what we do on Dune is basically we have a layer of abstract, so we have like raw data, decoded data, and then on top of that is basically our community and our team will write kind of standardized tables, normalized tables, which abstract away those like levels of complexity which you would have to deal with if you are just analyzing like raw smart contract data. So we basically build a table which is called NFT.traits, and then in that NFT.traits table is just like all the individual transactions of all the different marketplaces are in that table, and that makes it very easy to write queries like this. This is probably like 10 lines of code or something, and that's pretty massive, and those tables are really, really useful to like do these sector level analysis, because otherwise you would have to write like 1,000 lines of code probably just to like deal with all the complexity of all the different smart contracts of all the different marketplaces, and we just pretty much do that in the back end, and that way anyone can basically do like very broad level analysis of the space. So that's pretty cool. And then also social learning is overpowered. And am I good on time? Yes, I think I'm okay on time. So if we actually want to go into Dune, this is the Dune interface. So on the left side we have a data explorer, and that's basically I can just put in stuff here. So if I want to search for curve, I think it's called curve-fi. Yeah. So these are all the different curve contracts, and so I can just go in here and see like for each different smart contracts, it's like they output events and they output, so they have traces which are like the calls to them or the calls they make, and we just have all of those tables in a very clean format. So if we actually go into here, Uniswap v3 dot. And then there's like some event which is called, yeah, I'm not going to search for this more, but basically all the events that are, so for each smart contract, we have like a bunch of tables depending on the individual events that they put out or the calls that they make, or that have been made to them. I think that's a proper way to put it. So yeah, so then we can just like, we can take something from our data explorer and just, so this is a table that's called Uniswap v3 factory event pool created. So this is the event that the Uniswap v3 factory will put out yeah, basically if I create a new pool. And yeah, then we just get fun stuff like which tokens are involved, what's the fee level, what's the tick spacing, what is the address of this pool now, and the contract address is just this, the factory contract. And of course, metadata like the event transaction hash, the event block time number, and so on. And what we can very easily do with this now, so this is like the raw data, and then if I write like 1 line of SQL or like 2 lines, 3 lines, if I actually would format this correctly, then we can just do a chart, which is basically show me how many Uniswap pools, or show me the cumulative amount of Uniswap pools that have been deployed over time. And yeah, it was just easy like that. Dune is very much plug and play. You can just come to us, write a bunch of SQL, and immediately get your results. And then if we want to go a level deeper, because this is like fairly boring data, I would think. So if we go a level deeper and partition this by the fee amounts, we get to something like this. So this is the. So why is there a 1? I don't know where that 1 comes from, but yeah. So basically, how many pools in which fee? This is hard to formulate. But basically, if we look at this, the 0.01% fee tier, there's like 2,600 pools deployed with that. And then the 0.05 tier, there's 713 pools over time, and the 0.3 pool tier, there's only 3,000, or there is 3,000. So basically, that just shows you like how many, like which pools are being deployed on Uniswap v3 with which, not which pools, but which T-fee, or like which type of pools, basically. Yeah, bit of a weird. Formulation here, but I hope you guys understand what I mean. So yeah, and then this is just the like Dune landing page pretty much, and then if we actually, so I was saying earlier like Dune is social learning is OP, and what I mean by that is basically everything that I do on Dune is public. So the methods to get the data are public. So if I'm like, hey, this is actually really interesting that this guy has analyzed the nesting of moonbirds, and I want to like build on top of his analysis, then I can just click in here and I can actually just see this guy's query. So this is not my query, this is just like some random guy, I don't know him, and I can just like look into his query, and now if I was like, hey, I actually want to know like what are like the top people who are doing this or something, I could go into his query, fork his work, so do this, and then the query basically sits under my namespace, and I can just like keep continuing on that work and very quickly iterate on his work. So that's very useful while you are like starting out on Dune or you're starting a new project. You can just so I was looking at Rari Capital a while ago, and basically like I could just look at the compound dashboard, and basically like each Rari Capital pool is like its own compound fork. So I just like looked at the compound stuff and like adapted it to Rari Capital, and that's like it's super useful since the space is like very like forking is very common. So we can just like do the same stuff on the data layer as well. So that's it's pretty cool. So yeah, what else would I want to show? Yeah.
Can you also export the data on a CSV or something?
Yeah, that is part of our pro tier though. So Dune is free. Basically, like for all like intents and purposes, it's like if you just want to like push out public data and not export data, Dune's like totally free. But then if you want to export data, you gotta pay us money. And if you want to actually work in private on Dune, you also got to pay us money because you're not contributing to this like public pool of knowledge that we're kind of trying to create on Dune. So yeah. Live demo if I have time. And yeah, and then my final point is basically Web3 data levels the playing field. And this is basically, this alludes to the fact that everyone from everywhere has access to this data. They can just go on Dune and like, if they have a little bit of technical knowledge or if they have like a few hours to spare to learn something, or have some money to spare to like hire one of our wizards. So we have like a bounty program, and you can just like go in there and like, I want this data, and like a few days later you'll probably have that data. And then you can literally have better access to the data than the project itself, which is like coming from like a Web 2 background or something, it's like radically different. Like if I write the better queries than whatever your data analyst is doing, like I have a better overview over your systems than you yourself have. So that's pretty crazy. Then what we are trying to create is like equal access for everyone with no paywalls. So everyone should be able to have that data, and kind of we hope that the space matures more over time as we like surface more data, we have more analysts, and yeah, the space just becomes more transparent. And then kind of Dune creators are building public goods and private goods. So, and sometimes that is even the same. So this LooksRare dashboard is probably like, even the LooksRare team, like they were probably like looking at it all the time. So that's kind of like a private good for them. Like they're using it like to like further their business. But at the same time, like the whole space and like we as investors or like participants in the space can also look at this, and then it kind of turns into a public good. So just like surfacing this data is like a really powerful thing for the space to basically advance and mature, because then we can all make better decisions based on data and not on Twitter threads. So yeah, and then like all of us literally have better access to the data if we like have some skills than the CEOs of Web 2 companies, because like the data is live. Like on the blockchain, there's like Dune trails like 1 minute behind the head of the chain. That's just like our data pipelines. Like we can probably try to get that more live in the future. And like compare that, so like 1 minute of reporting time, and then compare that to like a Web 2 CEO who gets like a quarterly or like a quarterly report like once every 4 months. It's like pretty crazy to like see that difference. So yeah, that was my short introduction to open data for open finance. This is our Discord link. We have a really strong community in Discord, and like if you ever have questions around like anything Dune related, we'll try to answer you as quickly as possible. And there's also like-minded analysts who you can like embark on the analyst journey with. There's bounties posted there. It's a great space. Questions, anyone? Yeah.
In the Pro plan also have like an API where I can use it in my dev?
We're working on an API, and this like everyone we meet is like, when API guys, and yeah, we know this will be like this is really important going forward, and yeah, we're working on it, and we hope to, yeah, no real clear timeline, but it's like very high on our list of priorities. Nothing else? All right. Thank you guys for coming. Yeah, happy querying. Oh, and we have a bunch of swag over there. The best socks in the universe, and some cool sunglasses as well. So yeah, feel free to take some.